Good evening, it's 7:40 p.m. at the capital city Ulaanbaatar. You're watching Today. Our special guest is Mr. Amarbayar Amarsanaa today. He works at the Amazon.com in Seattle, United States. He graduated from the Maharishi University of Management doing his master's degree in computer science. However, the topic we're going to talk about today is a project named HackUB that he has initiated. So thank you for receiving our invitation.
Thanks. Yep, thank you.
So let's talk about HackUB, what it is and how it was initiated.
Sure, absolutely. So HackUB is a hackathon. It's basically a competition where groups of people get formed in teams. They come and participate for several days, and their main goal is to build a product, whether it's a mobile application or web application. So they sit together, they eat together, they work on this project together for several days and come up with a final product.
Do these participants have to be all IT engineers or the computer science people, or it doesn't matter?
Typical hackathons.
How about the teams?
Typical hackathons require most of the team members to be software engineers or developers. But one unique thing about HackUB is that we're encouraging product managers, finance, marketeers, as well as developers and designers to get formed in teams and come and participate in this hackathon. We had a really good turnout of 145 people, 23 teams registered. And after round one elimination round, only 10 teams are selected, and they're working on building their products today.
So is there any kind of theme for the HackUB?
Absolutely. The theme for HackUB is to basically help tourists and expats, and as well as repats, to help them find information on local businesses, products and services, as well as events and activities that are happening in Ulaanbaatar as well as Mongolia, because today there is no easy and reliable way to find this information, and it's a bigger problem for our expat community and tourists.
So it's just my curious question, the personal question, hackathon. It sounds like a marathon and hackathon. And when I think about hacking, in public, I think about that. When you are trying to hack something, you're doing something wrong.
Something bad.
There's something bad, going into a database that you are not allowed to. Some kind of that feeling I have. Can you explain about the hacking and hackathon?
Yeah, so basically we're trying to hack Ulaanbaatar.
Yeah, the hacking Ulaanbaatar. With good intention,
yes.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of people, when they hear the word hack or like hackers, I think the first impression that they usually get is it's something bad or it's something wrong. But there is hacking with a good intention to actually build things based on whatever the tools that they could find. But that's the idea behind the good intention hackathon. But the bad intention hackathon is, of course, to penetrate secure systems and try to steal data and go against laws and regulations, which is not what we're after. We're after the good intention.
Right, you're the good guys, not
yes,
the
we're
bad
the good guys.
You're hacking the UB with good intention.
With good intention, absolutely.
Right, right. So how did you come up with the idea? What was the inspiration, and why did you initiate this HackUB at the first place?
Yeah, so there are a couple of reasons. So 2-3 years ago, I was back home in Mongolia for my summer vacation, and it was a weekend, and I had to find a notary that was open on the weekend, right? Because I was going to fly on the Monday, and I had to get some documents taken care of by notary. So me and my father, we drove around UB for 3 hours, knocking on about 20-30 notary, doors. Some of them had schedule that says, yes, we're open on weekends from this hour to this hour. But when we went and actually knocked on the door, they're like, leave me alone. Why are you calling me on weekend? And I was like, your schedule says you're going to be working on weekends.
Right. Well, that happens.
Yeah, so we literally spent 3 hours looking for information, and we ended up finding nothing. And at that point, I was like, this is a problem that we should not ignore and we should not get ourselves used to, right? We should identify this problem and challenge it, and to we need to be able to find solutions, because today information technology is developing rapidly in lots of countries, and all these countries are challenging themselves to address these common problems that are happening to like the citizens and public. But I felt like here in Mongolia we're just accepting these problems and not challenging to address them. So that was one. And number two was last year when I was here in UB, there were a couple of tourists I met on the street, and they're like, we're looking for a good coffee shop with really good internet because we are working remote, and I couldn't come up with any coffee shop to recommend to them. And my first thought was, all right, should I go to Google? Should I go to Facebook? Should I go to TripAdvisor? But then I thought, should I search in Mongolian, or should I search in English, or should I search in Latin, like message Mongolian language, which nowadays young people are using a lot, right? Yes. So all this information seemed to be scattered, it's unorganized, unstructured. So I felt really bad for not being able to recommend good places, and it's unfortunate that we don't even have a good technology that could guide and help these tourists and expats. Yeah.
So that's where you came up with the idea.
Yep. So that was when I thought, all right, we need to challenge this problem, but I cannot do it by myself. But I would rather work with all the people that are experiencing this problem, that know the problem that exists, come together and find a solution.
Right. So after the hack UB is done, what's the outcome? What's going to be left? Is it going to be just one-time thing, or the applications will be supported and go on and introduced to the public, or what's going to happen?
The first one is the 10 teams that are competing today, they're going to be pitching their ideas, and they're going to be basically presenting and demoing what they have come up with over this 7 days. And that day is August 8th, between 10 and 12 p.m. at the venue that we're doing. Startup Terminal is the venue. So our goal is to identify good talents, top talents, and we have remote judges, a designer from Apple, and a senior product manager from Adobe, and a business entrepreneur that's been living in Mongolia for the last 7 years. So these 3 judges will score and judge the 10 products, and will select a winner. The winning team will have certain prizes, and we're also working with different investors and businesses and individuals and organizations to see if we can connect these teams, whether the winning team or the rest of the 9 teams, with those groups of folks, so they can actually carry on the project to a fully implemented business project and business plan. So that's number one. We're trying to facilitate this platform. Each team is required to register at least 20 different businesses that are residing in Ulaanbaatar. So when you take 10 teams and 20 businesses each, we're going to potentially reach out to 200 different businesses that are in Mongolia, right? Gather the data, do analysis, and make it available to public to be able to search.
But these 200 is just a starting point.
Exactly.
If it's developed further, it can grow.
Yep, it could definitely
grow. Right?
So that's first outcome. The second outcome is something which I'm kind of taking a good significant part in, is me working at Amazon. What I wanted to challenge to see if the participants can use some of the Amazon Web Service technologies. Through that, I'm thinking of 2 things. One is, when I go back to Amazon, I'm going to write a report, because Amazon Web Services is participating as a co-sponsor of this Hack UB event. So when I go back and submit a report, I want them to see, all right, there are 10 teams, about 70 people were able to use actually Amazon Web Service technologies. There are this hackathon community of about 700-800 people that are in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. So my intention is to say, hey, why don't you guys organize more activities, whether it's recruiting purposes, come and actually try to recruit some of these top talents, so they can actually go in and get some experience, and then come back to Mongolia, right, and help develop the country. That's number one. And number 2 is to see if they can actually look at long-term plan where they could either open some stores, or they could help Mongolian manufacturers and designers whatsoever, right, producers, to be able to sell their products to the rest of the world
Rest of the
through
world.
Amazon
Through
network.
Amazon.
Yep.
Very interesting. Good
Yeah.
outcomes, actually.
Yeah.
Very beneficial to the public and to Mongolia, actually.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, it is. It
yeah.
is. You're starting something
Mhm.
very good, and it's going to go further,
Mhm.
I'm sure. So when you're working with all these IT engineers and the upcoming entrepreneurs, I'd say, entrepreneurs, the managers, what did you notice? Are they like, is there any kind of critique would you have?
Mhm. So yeah, a couple of things I noticed. One is I really, really like the fact that the entrepreneurship, the concept of startup is developing, and this awareness is growing bigger and bigger in Mongolia, right? So people are participating, they're brave, they're encouraged, they're motivated. So I like that idea. At HackUB, on a day-to-day basis, I'm visiting and talking to each team and just knowing about their progress, what they're working on. One thing I've noticed is I think it's because the market in Mongolia is pretty small. The population to reach is also limited. So when I talk to these folks, when they're building and designing their systems, I want them to be able to think big and think from the perspective that these systems should be scalable at any given time, right? So at one time there was this system design, and I asked them, all right, what if this goes down, or what if you are getting 100,000 users today, but your user number reaches to like 10 million tomorrow? Can your system support that, or will your system just go down, shut down, and lose all the businesses? That's number one. And number two, today you're developing these products, let's say for Mongolia, but tomorrow if Australia or Canada comes and say, hey, we want to invest in you, can you deploy and launch your application to our countries? Then I challenge these teams, can your system actually make that change pretty fast, right? Within a good amount of turnout time. So I want these teams to be able to think of this, think big.
Globally.
Yep.
Globally.
Yep.
Looking at the future, not just the market here in Mongolia.
Exactly. Yep.
But how the market's going to be bigger in global scale, right?
Yep.
Let's talk about you and your life.
Okay.
You're working at Amazon. It's a global company.
Yep.
And what can we learn, can Mongolians learn from global companies' management? What did you notice? The first thing to strike in your mind.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think I would, if I were to, because there's so many things.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
obviously.
of course, yes.
That's why they're still keeping this 400,000 employees worldwide.
Yes.
But the first thing that strikes my mind is about their human resource policy. And the concept and the motivation behind it. What I mean by that is, for example, if I were an employee in Mongolia, let's say, and I work as a software engineer today, let's say, right? And if I want to change my career and get into product management, let's say, I don't think I can talk about this with my manager in public, or just freely, right?
You're going to be in problem, I think.
Exactly. That's what I think too. Because my manager will be like, "Oh, why are you thinking of this? Maybe I'm going to fire you." I don't know. Right?
Maybe he's going to find another job or something like that. Is he going to stay here for a longer time? That kind of stuff.
So
that's going to happen.
Right. Lots of concerns and lots of fears and lots of privacy. So it's like there's this big wall and boundary that I would feel like I can't cross. But at Amazon, what I noticed was 6 months after my hire date, my manager met me and said, "All right, Amar, we're going to set your career plan for the next 6 months and 1 year. Tell me if you want to get into product management or different engineering role." And my manager told me that he would help me to get there by taking tasks to prepare me, to get to the role.
So they're gonna offer your authorities gonna offer you those kind of opportunities.
Exactly. They support it, and they're always working with their employees on a daily basis like that. And their main mentality is, as long as they retain these employees within the company, because they trust the employees that they're skilled and they're really good, then they want to encourage the employees to be able to choose any career growth path they want to choose within the company.
Wow.
So it's not about my team, I'm the manager, you have to stay in my team. But as long as you're within the company, I'm going to help you to grow as far as you can.
You can
That's
go.
the mentality. Yep.
Wow, that's a attitude
Yeah.
difference, I think.
Yep.
Yes. And how about creativity, like openness to creativity?
Yeah, so creativity is always encouraged, and like always, like encouraged, by the employees and even the employers. We challenge each other, managers challenge each other, even the senior executive, right, the senior vice president level, they encourage all the employees to come up with what they call disruptive ideas. So doesn't matter if you want to launch rockets and send people and deliver Amazon packages to the moon or other planets. They want you to come up with these disruptive ideas, and they want you to be able to defend your ideas with some data points. If you can do that, and if it gets an attention of one of the folks, then you could literally see your project being implemented.
Wow.
It just happens like that. So that's something
incredible.
I love about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for very interesting takes on a very interesting topic, and I will leave you the last minutes. If you have something to tell to our audience, it's your.
Absolutely. So yes, I want everybody to be thinking of and challenging themselves about this data problem that exists in Mongolia today. We cannot just walk by it and accept it and live with it. We have to challenge ourselves and constantly be thinking for finding solutions. I think HackUB is a step towards this, addressing this problem. And August 8th, 10 to 12 p.m. at this venue called Startup Terminal on the west side of Dunjungarov Market.
All right.
That's where all these 10 teams are going to be pitching their ideas. It's their final, fruit of the product. So whether, you're expats or tourists or investors or organizations, you're more than encouraged, more than welcome to come and take a look at what HackUB was able to produce.
So come to the avenue on August 8th, you said?
August 8th.
August 8th, west side of Dunjungarov
Market.
Right? Market. Well, thank you.
Thanks so
again,
much for having me.
And good luck, and come back to Mongolia.
I will. Yep, I will.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you for being with us. You're watching MM Today. We'll see you on next Tuesday with more news and updates. Have a good one. Bye-bye.